Hello, welcome back to Journey Through the Pen. I'm Lori, and this is my channel about prison reform and why what's going on in the prisons is important. Today we're going to talk a little bit about prison conditions and whether or not they are punishment or cruel and unusual punishment, but cruel and inhumane. So of course prison is supposed to be punishment. Obviously, it's not meant to be a resort or a 4-star hotel. However, they should be livable for the human beings that are living in them. And yes, they are human beings, and we need to remember that. Animal shelters are in better condition than the Florida prisons, and that is just terrible. So the punishment side of prison should be your loss of freedom. We talked about this a little bit earlier in a different video, but the punishment should be that you lose your basic freedoms, not your basic human rights, but your basic freedoms. So you can't go to the store when you want to, you can't eat when you want to, you can't see your family when you want to, you miss out on marriages, weddings, children being born, funerals. You miss out on those kinds of things, and that should be the punishment side of prison. Unfortunately, the Florida prisons are in terrible condition, and they go beyond punishment. So let's talk about some of the cruelty side of things. A lot of Florida prisons, most of Florida prisons, do not have air conditioning. Now, I'm not saying that the prisons should be resorts, like I said before, but in Florida, when it's 100 degrees outside, it feels like it's 110 or 115 in these dorms, and you have, if it's an open population dorm, you have 60 to 90 men or women in these dorms with no air conditioning. So if you can imagine sitting in an oven that's at 100 degrees and turning the fan on for cooling yourself down, it's just not going to happen. So then in the summertime, people with certain illnesses or the older population that's in prison, they have a risk of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, plus just the extra tension being in the dorms, and you're being hot and you're aggravated, and it's just not a good situation. A lot of the buildings have mold issues. A lot of them have water issues. Some of the confinement rooms, the sewer backs up when people are in there. It's just not, it's not good. And there's the lack of programming, so these men and women are sitting around and they're bored. And bored hands and bored minds are not good. To just have people sitting around all day when it's summertime in the heat and nothing productive for them to do. It's just not, that's beyond punishment, really is. Another thing that goes on in the prisons is there is an excessive amount of drugs available. So when you go to prison, you say you go in because in some way you're an addict, and that in some way led for you to go to prison. The prisons offer very few drug rehabilitation programs, but you can get whatever drugs you want. So this has affected me and my husband twice. It's extremely difficult to deal with because he can get all the drugs he wants, but he can't get help to stay clean. So staying clean in prison is a real task. And being addicted and being able to get the drugs while you're in prison completely voids any chance of rehabilitation that you have. There's no way that you can come out better if you've spent your entire sentence in there doing drugs. Now, how do they get there? I don't know. We are in October of 2020. We didn't have visits for the last 7 months, but there is no shortage of drugs. So you tell me where they're coming from. They're not coming from me. That's all I know. There is a link on my blog, journeythroughthepen.com, where you can actually go to the Florida Department of Corrections website and you can see how many officers have been arrested this year or last year or the year before, and what for. And a lot of times they are arrested for bringing in contraband. So if you don't believe me, that's fine. Go look at their own website, because it will tell you what's going on, and it's terrible. Another part of the punishment that goes too far is their use of solitary confinement. It's not always solitary. Sometimes you have somebody in there with you. But they use this for a lot of things. Maybe they use it because you got into trouble. Maybe they use it because you need protection from gangs. Maybe you need to be medically quarantined and that's the only place that they have to put you. But excessive use of confinement is terrible for mental illness. And it can cause a lot of other issues. And I'm going to read these to you, so I'm going to look away. But it can cause visual and auditory hallucinations, hypersensitivity to noise and touch, insomnia and paranoia, uncontrolled feelings of rage and fear, distortion of time and perception, increased risk of suicide, and post-traumatic stress disorder. My husband had been in confinement for almost 6 months at one point. So it's completely overused. They don't really monitor you like they say that they're going to. You're pretty much on your own. And it's a terrible thing for them to use the way that they do. The other thing that people think is that you get free medical care in prison, right? So, first of all, it's not free. You have to pay to go see the nurse. And some people don't get family support. So, some people just don't have the money to go to medical. But it's, other than where he is right now, it's been a joke. I had to fight. I had to go up to regional level to get him his inhaler for his asthma. So if you can imagine these men and women who have serious health issues, I mean, there are people incarcerated that have cancers, that have diabetes, that have really serious medical conditions. And for them to get any sort of decent medical care is a war. It's a war. It's a non-stop battle, and it's exhausting. You have to see the nurse 3 times in a row for the same thing before they'll allow you to see the doctor, and then when you see the doctor, he can either decide he wants to treat you or not. Convenience medications is what they like to call them. Like, my husband he has acid reflux and he has terrible sinuses. But they consider Claritin to be and the acid reflux medication to be what they call comfort items. So they're not required to give those to him. They do it when they feel like it. Now, you and I can go to the store when we don't feel well and we can get medication. That's just not what can happen there. But some of the other things that go on in there is there's a lot of gang activity in certain prisons. Some prisons are quite literally run by the gangs, not by the officers, not by the wardens, by the gangs. And it's just, punishment is one thing. Losing your dignity and losing your humanity is a whole other thing, and that's not what we should be doing. If we want these men and women to come out better than they went in, which should be the goal, the punishment is losing your freedom. The goal should be rehabilitating you and having you come out better than when you went in and be able to be successful. That's not what we set you up for, but that's what it should look like. But it doesn't. And if we are going to do better, we need to treat them with respect, and we need to treat them like human beings, so that they will then treat others with respect and with dignity. And they need to learn, some of them need to learn how to do that, because maybe they've been treated badly their entire life. You don't know what they've been through. But we have to do better. We have to start improving the conditions. We need to get them some air conditioning. We need to get them out of mold-filled cells and dorms. We need to get them out of sewer baggage. We need to provide them decent medical care. We need to give them programming. We took their freedom. Because the court said, okay, you need to serve 5, 10, 15 years, whatever. So we took their freedom from them. Let's not take their humanity and their dignity. Let's leave them with that, and let's build on it, and let's make them better, and let's bring them home to be better people, better neighbors than when they went in. That should be the goal. So I hope that you will check out my blog, journeythroughthepen.com. My next video is going to be about how prayer has gotten me through a lot of this journey. I couldn't have made it through without God's help. So that's what my next video will be about, but I hope that you will continue to join me and follow me on my journey through the pen, and I hope that I can help you in some way on your journey, or educate, or encourage and support, and together we're going to get through this. I've got like 41 months left, so I'm going to be here a while, but come back. And thank you for watching, and subscribe to follow me, and thank you so much.